Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. Well, it wouldn't be an IAE without one ship falling into the category of whale bait, appearing late in the week. And this week it is the RSI Arrastra at $525 war bond, which even when CIG was explaining the name, it felt like they were apologizing for it. Not only for its obscure reference, but also just plain lack of, sizzle. It rolls off the tongue like a boulder. However, the Star Citizen community have a history of coming up with much better abbreviations of CIG's names. The Lancer, the Cuddy, the Connie, etc. So in that spirit, I nominate that we call this ship the Astra, and then relegating its full name to talk like a pirate day, the Arrastra. Since Astra is Latin for stars, it's sort of odd that it hasn't already been used as a ship name. Since the Astra is an RSI ship, we can presume that it is being added to the list of large ships to be chain-smoked by the development team mentioned at CitizenCon. Where in that list it will fit means we may see it soon, or not. It will be interesting to see whether the first playable ship with a refinery in it will be the Expanse, the Astra, or a surprise post-squadron playable Orion, which may have something to do with the whys and wherefores of the Astra. The Orion, we know, like the Idris, plays a big role in the plot of Squadron 42. That is why, like the Idris, it was announced and sold so early and seen so little since then. I'm guessing that by the time they were finishing building it out to meet the gameplay of the squadron missions it stars in, that it was too huge for everyday use. So they felt a need for a version that be able to fit in an extra large hangar or land on a planet. Now, some people saw the 512 SCU of external cargo and thought that this might be some sort of competitor to the Hull B, Raylan, or Hercules. But look at the underbelly of the Holoviewer, and you will see that the external cargo isn't the right size or shape to be standard cargo containers. They are the ore bag system, found in the Prospector, Mole, etc. So generalized cargo will be limited to the 64 SCU of the internal cargo bay. But the 512 external cargo might well be able to be shared between raw ores and refined ores. So the Astra might be well suited to extended deployments. Except that there is a problem with extended deployments, and not just with this ship. So I'm going to segue from talking about the Astra in particular to the category of large and capital ships that it is a member of. And these are what I call Teamships. In other words, without a team, you would just leave them in the hangar because they are just too awkward or inefficient to do solo. It isn't a matter of size. The Hurricane with an empty turret is pretty lame, and while the Hercules models do benefit from crew members, it is pretty good with just the one pilot. But there are ships like the Reclaimer and the Hammerhead that are either clumsy or ineffective without a crew, and the impression I have of the Astra is going to need to have a team. Not just of 4 or 5 people inside the ship, but also it will be needing scouts to find the next deposit for the Astra to go to. Without scouts, a lot of capability will be sitting idle while the ship is searching. So take heart if you like the Astra but don't have a lot of money to spend. There will be a lot of people eager to have you aboard theirs. However, with the scope of the verse gathering, and even more so maintaining a team, is not very easy, particularly in light of current limitations. For example, the Astra announcement segment may have mentioned its bunk room, but under current limits, only the ship owner can log out in a bunk, and even then, only if they are the very last person on board. Furthermore, they talked about the vehicle bay, but if anybody's besides the ship owner's vehicles are in the bay, then even the ship owner can't bed log out. Everybody else will have to use the general logout, come back to the game in their most recent HAT location, and then travel back to rejoin the crew, even if they only had to log out for a few minutes, and that's presuming that they were able to return to the same shard, which is not guaranteed. But there are a couple features that will help with the problem of keeping teams together, each of them solving the problem from a different direction, and neither of them having really been given as much attention as they perhaps deserve. So I will, as promised, segue from the Astra to these planned capabilities. But first, a few words about Shards, since not everybody may be familiar with the concept as it applies to Star Citizen's game design. A shard is an instance of the replication layer and all the simulation servers that it is talking to. Right now, without server meshing, a server and a shard are essentially the same. But when server meshing is introduced, a shard will be one copy of the entity graph, one replication layer, and a bunch of game simulation servers, each covering their part of the verse. For performance reasons, all the components in a shard must be in the same physical building. Once server meshing is implemented, the number of players that a shard can handle will be limited by the performance of the replication layer. CIG has said that their goal would be to have one single global shard, but most likely that will prove unpopular with the 2/3 of the planet not located on the third where the data center is. So there will be, at a minimum, one shard per continent. Now, when I place or remove, say, a plushie on a table, that plushie only appears in the shard that I am in, because otherwise, the other shards will see things appear and disappear for no reason. And similarly, so would I. In addition, if I were to log out, the plushie remains on the table, because again, things would be appearing and disappearing for no reason. This I coined the Vegas shard rule. What happens in the Vegas shard stays in the Vegas shard. Unless it is in an inventory somewhere or on your person, it does not travel with you if you change shards. Currently, the game remembers the last shard you were on and will return it to you if possible. So if all of you log off at the end of the day, and then all of you log in the next day, you would still all be on the same shard, hopefully, but what if the shard is down or filled? You would then wind up possibly spread among several different shards. That plus combat logging is the reason for the current limitations. What happens if you log out in a ship not on your own, but later that ship isn't in the game, or is in the game and on a whole different shard now? That is the problem that something called the Matchmaking System is supposed to address. It is supposed to expand on the keep me on the same shard mechanic with considerations to follow your bounty, follow your active missions, or follow your team or org. Few details have been given out about it since the concept was introduced back when they first detailed server meshing system to us. So mostly what we know is that they see a need for it. The second feature has gone by several inaccurate names over the years, but I prefer to call it guest play, since it is the most accurate. But with CIG's record at naming things, you never know what we'll wind up with. Almost right from the start, CIG has stated that if you had multiple game accounts, then they could function as AI crew on your ship. As Chris Roberts said in an early Q&A, if you had your Han character and your Chewie character, you could play your Han character and your Chewie character could be there with you under AI control. Or you could play the next day your Chewie character and your Han character would be there, under AI control. Then, as outlined in a September 2013 posting, it was stated that you can invite others to drop in and control your Han character while you play Chewie. So instead of trying to assemble players from all over the verse to get to your Arrastra, you could just have 4 other game accounts all assigned as NPC crew to it. Then you just invite players for that day as to guest play one of the 4 alternate character slots. With that, Star Citizen would go from being one of the hardest games to assemble a team to one of the easiest. And it doesn't even count as a fast travel exploit, any more than playing an alt character does. When guest playing, your own character or characters never leave their hab. So will we ever actually see this now decade-old promise? Is even mentioning it an unreasonable level of hopium? Well, Squadron 42 development contained a massive quantity of AI programmers, including in no small part a job of creating an entire AI crew for the Idris. So a lot of coders and codebase is on the threshold of becoming available for the PU. So I wouldn't be surprised that after the annual January Planning Week exercise, we will start to see the roadmap progress view introducing items for NPC crew. Once you have created the ability for one of your spare game accounts to be available as NPC crew, then the extra code to also allow them to be guest played is actually the easy part. Now for an update on our giveaways. I'm officially declaring this the last video qualifying for this year's IAE Week Ship giveaway for the winner's choice of the Galaxy Complete, the Massive Modular Mining Moving Medical Machine, or the brand new Big Box Bargain Bazaar known as the Merchantman. I will, however, still leave open a 24-hour period for you to go back and add entry comments to prior videos. But again, only 1 entry per video, with members being automatically entered on each video. Otherwise, just subscribe and comment, somehow including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is my alternate nickname for the Arrastra. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.